Hey all, this is our next photography lesson, and I've tried to find time with hubby to help me do this on a weekend, and it just isn't happening. So I'm making a go of it by myself. Hopefully I can do this. I do have a little bit of a helper over here that I'm hoping is going to mind her own business, and she may get into the camera here, but hopefully she's already tried to take off with my flowers twice. She wants to play tug of war with them, but hopefully I can do this without too much interruption. This lesson is on temperature and color filters, and that's it. Keep yourself occupied. Get a ball. And the next lesson is going to be more about temperature in photos, because it's easier for me to show you that in Photoshop and Photoshop Elements. So this is the lesson for how to use filters and or temperature in your camera. And then we will follow it up and reinforce it with the Photoshop video in the next video. So, does your camera have filters, have the ability to do filters? And I'm going to say most DSLRs do. Here is a UV filter. You can see I don't use it. It's got fingerprints all over it. But this is where I needed my hubby's help. But here's my camera. And I'm going to snap off the cover. And then this just screws right on here. Now, let's see. It would screw really easily if I had two hands. But it just screws right on there. There, I think I got it now. And then the cap even can clip on top of that. So you can leave filters on your cameras all the time. Filters are one of those extra things that when you see cameramen who have their camera bags, or camera ladies, camera woman, I don't know, who have their bags and they stuff it full of fun gear. Filters are one of those kind of fun gears. There are other types of filters you can buy. The ones that screw on are the best. Now you see this one says right on it UV or haze. These are also sometimes called sky light filters. But in digital photography, they're not as needed, because this particular filter was created, of course, for regular analog cameras, film cameras, not analog, regular film cameras, but they do have their uses in digital photography. They were made to remove blue tint that's caused by the UV rays. You know, the UV rays that they have us put suntan lotion on to protect our skin. It is also able to be filtered out of our cameras. Now, it's not real visible by the naked eye. It's not something we can really see. That's why this lens here looks fairly clear. When I went to the store to investigate buying filters, oh my gosh, they had a whole wall full of them. And I said, well, I'm just going to get the least expensive one and start there. And, oh, got to help her. And get out of here. And I'm sorry. Oh, and yes, these are professional films. They're here for content, not for being too professional. But as I was saying, he had a whole wall, so you can really have fun with filters. This was a local guy. There are tons and tons of filters, and I'm going to talk about a few of them here. So I just bought one just so I could have one, and this was probably over a year ago, and I keep meaning to go back to get more so I can have fun playing, and that's just something on my wish list. Now my next one that I want to get, and these can be kind of expensive, the most common one used is called a polarizing filter. A polarizing filter works to reduce reflections and glare, as well as to up the ante on the vibrancy and the color. And this is the most common one. If you're going to get one filter, this is the one I would recommend getting, especially if you do landscape photography. So if you are taking photos, they're most effective on shots of water, because they're really effective on reflections and glare, and water has a lot of reflections and glare, as well as the sky. Obviously, the sky has a lot of glare sometimes, especially if you're looking directly into the sunlight. But so not only does it help reduce that glare, but and the reflections, but it also will add to the vibrancy of the color. I mean, it'll make your blues really pop. That's why it's really great on water and sky. That's the most effective use. Hoya, Hoya, is the most popular brand that I know of. It's well respected. So if I were to get a polarizing filter, I would probably get a Hoya. And there are other kinds of ways filters attach. Some of them come on it and stick up, and I don't know. You just look online. You'll see what's best for your camera. Of course, size. You see this has a size on it, so it has to be able to screw into your camera, and you'll have to look that up. Another filter that might be kind of common is a soft focus filter, and these are more common for portrait photography. Portrait photos, sometimes you want that real soft look to the face. It's much more flattering, and it even kind of reminds me of those water photos with the slow shutter speeds, which look real soft. So soft focus filters if you're doing a lot of portrait photography. And there will be a lesson on how to make the face softer, I think, coming up in this, if you want to wait and do that afterwards in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. Another common one is called neutral density filters. It provides for a more flattering effect for photos. I'm sorry. I've got a cheat sheet over here. I got on the wrong line. It reduces the light that is able to enter a lens, which is more often used with long exposure shots. So if you have a very slow shutter speed on a landscape photo that you're working with, but yet you're pointing it into the light, let's say, you might want to limit the amount of light that comes in so that you can leave that exposure on longer, if that makes sense. It also helps with any kind of extreme brightness like the sun or a harsh lamp or things like that. So that's neutral density. And then there's such a thing as a graduated filter, graduated ND neutral density, sometimes they call them. But a graduated filter, and in Photoshop, if you've taken some of my other lessons, you'll be familiar with what a gradient is, where it goes from soft white into gray, and then gradually goes up into, somebody's got her ball on my notes, and then gradually goes up into black, or just from white to gray. So there are filters that have a gradient across them. That way the neutral density might apply more to the top where the sun is. Maybe it might be wider up here or darker up here where the neutral density would apply to where the sun is, but down here in this way the filter wouldn't apply as much because you have your landscape, and you could probably turn your filter one way or the other. And so they have graduated filters. And then there are filters that cool or warm a photo, which is temperature, and we're going to talk about that more in the next lesson. And then there are so many creative filters. You can buy what's called a fisheye lens, an actual lens for your camera, but you can also buy a fisheye filter, which would be a cheaper alternative if you're just playing. Fisheye is kind of cool. It gives like a 3D rounded effect to it. Or you might find filters that might have a little star or a pinhole. Pinhole's a very common one to play with, or a little star in the center, and those are creative, or other shapes. So lastly, I'm going to suggest try making your own filters. You can have fun playing with your camera. Yes, I give you license to have fun playing with your camera. The soft look can be achieved by putting material over the lens, such as a fine mesh or a scrunched up cellophane. So if you don't have one of those soft filter lenses, you can get some sort of material and put it right here on front of your lens. And if you want to get real creative, you can take a marker on a piece of plastic transparency, you know, those little pieces of transparency that, oh gosh, depends on how old you are. When I was in high school, we used to have transparencies to view things on the wall with a transparency viewer in class. But they're thin pieces of see-through plastic is what they are. And you can take a marker and scribble on them. Maybe make circles on them, or make lines, or use different colors. And just try holding them up. Just hold them up right in front of your lens as you shoot. And just your creativity is only limited by this is limited only by your own creativity. You might want to be inspired by some of the phone apps that are out there. You know, there's lots of phone apps, and they change the effects on the photos, and they'll even do fisheye and pinhole and other things. So be inspired by them and think of how you can maybe make that same effect. You know, a pinhole, I've seen you just take a piece of cardboard and punch a little hole in the center. And there are tutorials out there. You can go Google them all and take your photo through that little pinhole, you know, or take a piece of cardboard and cut a star in it, you know. But look at them and think, what could I do to make that effect with my own camera straight out of the camera? Now, there are other built-in filters into the cameras, and we're going to look at that here, hopefully. And I'm going to click on my menu, and let's see, right here under this second icon, this is my camera. You got to find out where it is on your camera. There is a picture style, and you see it says standard. I'm going to hit the button, and you can see I have built-in ones that come with the camera called standard, portrait, landscape, neutral, faithful, monochrome, which is black and white. And then I have user-defined ones. So I'm going to go into a user-defined one. Now you see here it says press the info button for detail, and here's my info button. And I'm going to go, oops, click on, what did I do? It's hard to film and do this. I actually chose it. Let's try this again. Okay. Click on info for, I am losing it. There we go. Now click on info. Okay, this was working earlier. She's chewing her bone. Sort of. Oh, you know what I'm doing? I'm not hitting the info button. Okay, info button. I was hitting the the one to the right instead of the left of where it said. That's what I get for trying to record. And you see it has sharpness, contrast, saturation, and color tone. Those are the 4 settings. And I can scroll down and choose this one. And then after I click down to select it, I can move it to the left or right. And when I'm done, go down to another one. Maybe I want to really up the saturation. And so it's kind of fun to get in here. I got my color tone way up. Maybe I want to take it all the way down. So when you're done, then I'm going to press the menu button. That's what it says right here, to go back. And I can, whichever one is blue is the one I'm utilizing. So now I have user defined 1. Now I can also get to these by just hitting this button here, and I can scroll through my user defined or one of the others, and like let's say I want monochromatic, black and white, and then I can just take my photo from there. So these are really handy once you get them set. So I encourage you to do some user defined ones. You see that this has the same settings. You can kind of see what they have, because I don't even remember what it was. It was contrast, and now I can't remember. Make sure I hit the right buttons. It was sharpness, contrast, saturation, and color tone. So you can see when you go up here, you have sharpness, contrast, saturation, and color tone. So for landscape photos, they've got the sharpness set on 4, and these the contrast and the color tone, they haven't changed, but the saturation they've upped by 1. And so you can kind of get ideas from them what they have. See, here's portrait, they've got the sharpness up, but none of the others. And the standard, they've got sharpness way up. So in my camera, they must like to change sharpness. But you can, here's monochromatic. I don't know how to get the ends on the user defines. I've tried to play with that. I'll have to get my book out. But anyway, so my suggestion is to set your user-defined ones, to snap photos, and play around, see if you can find something that you like for your particular camera. And then we're going to go on to my point and shoot. Yes, point and shoots often do have filters, often like those fun camera apps. And so if my battery case came out. Okay, I got that back in. So if I can hold this and flip through it. Okay, so right now you see I'm in the P mode. And actually, if I go in my particular point and shoot, I have one called Magic. Now, for point and shoots, they're all over the place. They have all sorts of different things for different camera models, all to attract point and shoot users. So I'm going to go down, and I have one in here that makes a drawing. I have a soft focus, so there's the same as having that soft focus lens. And I have punk, whatever that is. It looks like it turns it pink. Sparkle, I'm not sure what that does. I'd have to take photos with each of them. Watercolor, pop art, pinhole. See, there's my pinhole and what it might look like. Fisheye, there's the fisheye that I was talking about. People like playing with fisheye. And then back to drawing. So I think I've been through them all. So that's where it is on my point and shoot. And so I look forward to seeing what you can do with your camera and hearing what you have, what tools you have for your camera, maybe what you went out and bought, maybe what you made for yourself. Remember, just as you can make them for this camera lens, that's probably not the best way to set a camera straight down like that, but you can also put it over the lens here. You can make things on your own and try playing around and see what you can get. So even if your point and shoot doesn't have filters in it, try making something, anything. Be creative and put it on the front of your camera. Either that or take several shots with different filters that are on your camera and put them all together in an image, or I don't care how you get them to us, just get them to us so we can see them. I look forward to seeing what you can do. And she has taken all the stuffing off her tennis ball. At least she was good for us. Right, Rhea? She doesn't care. But this is what she did while we were playing. Give Rhea. You want to see what a tennis ball looks like without its stuffing? Oh, you gotta love dogs. See you around the forum. Can't wait to see what you do with filters.